Long before telescopes, algorithms, and written science, Africa's ancestors engineered a spiritual technology so profound that modern researchers are still struggling to understand how it worked. This was not myth, superstition, or folklore. It was a systematic mastery of the invisible forces that shape reality. From the Nile Valley to West Africa, from the Congo Basin to the Horn of Africa, priests, healers, astronomers, and diviners built integrated systems of knowledge designed to manipulate energy, predict events, restore balance, and decode destiny. These systems were so accurate, so complex, and so consistent that early European chroniclers could not comprehend them and labeled everything witchcraft. Yet hidden beneath the colonial distortions is a truth so shocking that it flips the world upside down. Africa did not practice primitive superstition. Africa pioneered metaphysical science. African Egyptians charted the movements of the stars with near-perfect precision. The Dogon of Mali held cosmic maps that modern astrophysics only rediscovered in the 20th century. The Yoruba preserved a knowledge system, Ifa, that functions like a vast spiritual database. The Igbo, Akan, and Congo encoded advanced psychological and moral systems into symbols that functioned like software. And across the continent, healers mastered energy, vibration, trance, and consciousness manipulation techniques that modern neuroscience is only beginning to study. What makes Africa's spiritual technology truly breathtaking is its integration. Symbol plus sound plus ritual plus cosmology plus ancestry formed one interconnected operating system. Every symbol activated meaning. Every drumbeat altered frequency. Every ritual opened an energetic portal. Every mask represented a metaphysical force. And every ancestor acted as a node in a spiritual network that linked the living and the invisible realms. This was not religion. It was a complete science of reality, encoded through culture, art, memory, and oral philosophy. But the greatest tragedy is that this knowledge was not lost naturally. It was systematically erased. Missionaries burned shrines. Colonial governments criminalized diviners. Sacred symbols were banned. Indigenous languages were suppressed. Thousands of spiritual experts were executed or forced underground. What survived are fragments. Nsibiti symbols, Dogon astronomy, Yoruba divination, Congo cosmograms, Ethiopian mystical texts. But these fragments are powerful enough to reveal a shocking truth. Africa once led the world in spiritual intelligence. Today, as scholars revisit suppressed knowledge, and as global interest in metaphysics and consciousness grows, we are rediscovering something astonishing. Africa's ancestors were not simply spiritual. They were scientific mystics, engineers of the unseen, architects of energy, masters of vibration, and explorers of cosmic dimensions. Their knowledge is not dead, it is sleeping, and this documentary will awaken it. If Africa's ancestors had computers, their software would have been symbols. In many African civilizations, symbols were not decorations, they were active technologies, coded with spiritual, psychological, and cosmological intelligence. In southeastern Nigeria, the Igbo and Efik developed Nsibiti, a mysterious system of thousands of symbols that documented laws, recorded memories, resolved disputes, encrypted communication, and activated spiritual forces. In Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, the Akan created Adinkra, a powerful library of visual proverbs encoding moral philosophy, destiny patterns, and universal truths. In Igboland, Uli symbols carried spiritual intentions, functioning like energetic signatures painted onto skin, shrines, and sacred objects. These symbols were engineered to interact with the subconscious mind, the spirit world, and the physical environment simultaneously. What makes these African symbol systems truly astonishing is their precision. Modern neurologists have found that symbols can shape behavior, alter emotion, trigger memory, and influence perception deeply and instantly. Yet African ancestors understood this thousands of years ago. They crafted symbols that could bind oaths, protect warriors, attract wealth, invoke healing, or summon ancestral spirits. Nsibidi was so powerful that only initiates could fully understand it. Its advanced symbols were restricted to secret societies like the Ekp, Leopard Society, because of their ability to command spiritual authority. Adinkra symbols like Gai Nyam, accept God, and Sankofa, return and get it, served as philosophical compasses. These were not simple drawings, they were gateways to mental and spiritual transformation. African symbol technology also performed functions similar to modern digital encryption. Messages were encoded in pictographs that only trained minds could interpret. Ritual garments carried layered symbols that determined the wearer's spiritual role and energetic state. Entire temples were constructed around symbolic geometry: circles for continuity, spirals for transition, triangles for manifestation, and crosses for cosmic balance. In Congo cosmology, the Daikna, the four moments of the sun, mapped birth, life, death, and rebirth. This symbol acted like a metaphysical GPS, guiding community rights and individual destiny. Even African masks were not mere art. They were symbolic interfaces allowing spirits to inhabit the physical world. In many traditions, symbols were activated through ritual charge, a combination of intention, incantation, gestures, and offerings. A symbol was considered alive only when spiritually energized. The Igbo Ofo stick, D Yoruba Odu Ifa markings, and a Dogon ritual diagrams were all infused with breath, vibration, or sacrifice to awaken their dormant power. Africans believed symbols held Ase Yoruba, Chi, Igbo, Ntoro, Akan, the spiritual force that makes things happen. This means a symbol was not merely a representation. It was a vessel for power. And once activated, it could influence events, protect individuals, open portals, or communicate with ancestors. Today, psychologists, mathematicians, and computer scientists study African symbol systems with renewed awe. The structures of Nsibidi resemble modern semantic networks. Adinkra patterns mirror binary logic, fractals, and recursive algorithms. Uli designs anticipate modern minimalist aesthetics and neurological triggers. African ancestors encoded complex knowledge into simple, elegant visual forms, a feat so advanced that it took D-World centuries to catch up. Yet these symbols remain alive today, reminding us that Africa's deepest technologies were never metal or machines, but mind, spirit, and meaning. To Africa's ancestors, sound was not entertainment, it was technology. A force capable of altering consciousness, summoning spirits, transmitting information, and stabilizing entire communities. African drumming traditions were built on the understanding that vibration is the foundation of the universe. From the Yoruba Bata drums to the gem of the Mande, from the Igbo Ekwe-slit drum to the talking drums of the Sahel, every rhythm had a function. Some rhythms healed, some invoked deities, some announced war, some opened portals, and each beat carried a specific frequency designed to interact with human physiology and the spiritual field. This was not music, this was frequency engineering. The talking drum remains one of Africa's most extraordinary technological achievements. In the hands of a skilled drummer, the talking drum could mimic the tonal patterns of language, allowing messages to be transmitted across villages, forests, and kingdoms, long before telephones or telegraphs existed. The Yoruba called it gangan or dundun, and it served as a spiritual messenger between humans and the Orisha. In the Ashanti Empire, talking drums conveyed royal commands across great distances. These drums were encrypted communication devices. Only those trained in rhythm language could interpret the messages. Colonial observers were stunned to learn that an entire kingdom could speak through drums. But the greatest power of African sound technology lies in trance induction. Across the continent, rhythmic repetition was used to transport participants into altered states of consciousness, where healing, prophecy, and communication with ancestors could occur. The Sand Bushmen of southern Africa used intense rhythmic clapping and chanting to enter the Kia trance, a healing state believed to allow the practitioner to see with the heart. In West Africa, Orisha possession ceremonies used drums, rattles, and call-and-response chants to align participants with higher energies. Neuroscientists studying these rituals discovered that the brain shifts into theta and gamma frequencies, states associated with heightened intuition, creativity, and spiritual experience. African ancestors also used sound to manipulate energy and emotion. Certain drum patterns were designed to raise the heartbeat, others to calm it. Some induced courage before battle, others soothed grief during funerals. The balafon, bira, kora, and other ancient instruments were tuned to natural harmonic scales that matched the frequencies of water, wind, and human emotion. This created an immersive sonic ecosystem that regulated the psychological health of the community. Ritual specialists understood that sound could cleanse negative energies, strengthen the spirit, and realign the body's subtle field. In effect, sound became medicine. Today, modern science is only beginning to confirm what Africa knew for millennia. Sound restructures water, affects plant growth, alters brainwaves, and impacts the human nervous system. Yet African civilizations had already mastered sound as both a scientific and spiritual tool, capable of healing trauma, summoning deities, and transmitting complex information through frequency. When we examine African drumming, chanting, and harmonic traditions, we are not looking at music. We are looking at an entire civilization's acoustic technology, a technology powerful enough to move spirits, transform consciousness, and shape reality itself. Before algorithms, probability theory, or psychological diagnostics, Africa's ancestors created divination systems that functioned like spiritual data networks. These systems collected, processed, and interpreted information from the universe, the ancestors, and the subconscious mind. The most advanced example is the Yoruba Ifa system, an intellectual powerhouse containing 256 Odu signatures, each with hundreds of verses encoding history, ethics, medicine, astronomy, psychology, conflict resolution, and spiritual laws. This massive database was accessed through palm nuts or a divination chain, producing binary-like patterns that guided the diviner to the correct Odu. Seen through modern eyes, Ifa is a predictive algorithm powered by spirituality, mathematics, and ancestral memory. But Ifa is not alone. Among the Yu and Fan people of West Africa, Ifa divination uses similar computational logic, mapping destiny through numerical and symbolic patterns. In southern Africa, Sangoma's red bones not randomly, but through a structured system of meaning based on orientation, proximity, and relational geometry. Each bone acts like a data point, and the overall configuration becomes a message. The Congo people used shells, sticks, and cosmograms to diagnose spiritual disturbances. Even cowries, common objects across many traditions, functioned as probability tools capable of revealing personality structures, future outcomes, and ancestral instructions. These systems were built on pattern recognition long before modern science recognized pattern as the foundation of intelligence. Divination in Africa was not fortune-telling, it was analysis. It diagnosed health problems, resolved disputes, identified saboteurs, guided political decisions, prevented war, and aligned individuals with their life purpose. Rulers in Benin, Oyo, Dahomey, and Ethiopia routinely consulted diviners before making national decisions. Divination systems provided early forms of psychotherapy by revealing hidden fears, emotional blockages, and spiritual imbalances. They were also community stabilizers, offering moral frameworks and ancestral oversight that prevented social collapse. These practices combined data interpretation, intuition, mathematics, and ritual theater into a coherent technology of insight. What made African divination breathtakingly advanced was its multi-layered intelligence architecture. Each reading integrated cosmic data, moon cycles, star patterns, elemental forces, ancestral data, guidance from lineage spirits, personal data, personality, destiny path, emotional state, environmental data, omens, signs, community rhythms. The diviner became an interpreter of a dynamic, living system, one that linked the physical world with spiritual dimensions. Rituals were then prescribed to reprogram the individual's destiny, cleanse negative energy, or restore harmony. It was a full-spectrum technological system. Modern researchers are astonished to find that Ifa and other African divination systems resemble digital coding, binary computation, complex decision trees, and neural networks. Where Western systems separate logic from spirituality, Africa fused them into a unified science of meaning. Divination was not irrational, it was an advanced tool for understanding reality. And the truth is this: Africa did not merely practice spirituality. Africa practiced data science before data existed, powered not by machines but by consciousness, symbolism, and ancestral connection. These were technologies designed not just to predict the future, but to shape it. At the highest level of African spiritual technology lay a discipline so advanced that it still unsettles modern scholars: cosmic engineering. Africa's ancestors did not see Earth as separate from the heavens. They saw it as a mirror. From the Nile Valley to the Dogon Plateau, sacred architecture, ritual calendars, and spiritual systems were aligned precisely with stars, planets, and cosmic cycles. The Dogon people of Mali possessed detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system, including Sirius B, an invisible star, long before modern telescopes confirmed its existence. Egyptian temples were aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and stellar risings, turning stone into a cosmic instrument. These were not coincidences. They were deliberate designs rooted in astronomical mastery. Rituals were the activation technology that connected humans to this cosmic order. African initiation rites were not symbolic ceremonies. They were engineered transformations of identity, consciousness, and spiritual capacity. Through fasting, rhythm, sacred geometry, storytelling, and controlled sensory overload, initiates were psychologically uninstalled and then reprogrammed with new knowledge, responsibilities, and spiritual awareness. Masquerades were not performances but spiritual interfaces, living avatars through which ancestors and cosmic forces entered the physical world. When a mask appeared, it was not a costume. It was a vessel. Entire communities reorganized themselves around these ritual technologies, maintaining balance between visible and invisible realms. African spiritual technology also understood energy flow at a planetary and human level. Sacred groves acted as energy reservoirs. Rivers were treated as living entities with consciousness. Mountains served as spiritual transmitters. Even city layouts followed metaphysical principles, ensuring harmony between human activity and natural forces. Healers worked not only with herbs but with light, breath, vibration, and intention, methods now mirrored in quantum biology and energy medicine. What modern science is cautiously rediscovering, Africa practiced openly. That consciousness influences matter, and ritual directs consciousness. Colonialism did not simply conquer land, it attacked technology. Shrines were destroyed, initiations banned, diviners criminalized, and ancestral sciences labeled demonic. The goal was not only domination but disconnection, to sever Africans from their spiritual operating systems. Yet, despite centuries of suppression, the technology survived. It hid in oral traditions, songs, symbols, festivals, family lineages, and secret societies. Today, fragments are resurfacing across the diaspora in psychology, physics, music, meditation, and digital design. Africa's ancient systems are no longer relics, they are blueprints. The final truth is this: Africa's ancestors were not behind the world. They were ahead of it. They built technologies that required no machines, no electricity, no screens, only deep understanding of mind, nature, and the cosmos. As humanity searches for meaning in an age of artificial intelligence and digital overload, Africa's spiritual technology offers something radical. Wisdom without disconnection, power without destruction, science without separation. The knowledge was never primitive. It was timeless. And the question now is not whether Africa's ancestors were advanced, but whether the modern world is finally ready to understand them. Africa's ancestors were not mystics lost in superstition. They were architects of knowledge, engineers of energy, and masters of realities modern science is only beginning to question. What you've seen in this journey is not the past frozen in time, but a living legacy that still breathes through symbols, sound, ritual, and ancestral memory. If this truth challenged what you were taught, imagine how many others are still waiting to hear it. Help awaken this knowledge. Like this video, comment with your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe so we can continue uncovering Africa's untold power together. This is more than history, it's a reclaiming,